Welcome back, everybody, to The Practical Woodsman. I'm Rut, the creator and host of The Practical Woodsman. That's right, it's my genius which has brought this all into existence. I wanted to talk to you today about containers, gadgets, and doodads, things that are nice for the woods, that little things, that maybe you overlook or don't think about. Show you some tricks for carrying some of your stuff out there. I'm going to prepare myself some Yerba Mate, and if you don't know what that is, don't worry. After we do the musical introduction, I'll tell you all about it. Yerba Mate is sort of like a tea, and for people who have it for the very first time, it might be like tea that tastes like a freshly mowed lawn. It does kind of favor like freshly cut grass when you first have it, but it's got caffeine or something in it that energizes people like coffee does. But people who drink Yerba Mate, what they say they like about it is that it doesn't give them the jitters and stuff like that, like coffee does. But it's very popular among the Argentinians. It's very popular among, I think, the Italians. And this is what it looks like. I've got some here in a package. Also, on the screen here, I'll flash a picture of the type of Yerba Mate that I order off of Amazon. It comes in this great big paper. It almost looks like when you buy flour from the grocery store or sugar. It comes in packaging like that, but it's loose leaf and stem herb like that. You see it there, see it over here, and I know what you're thinking. It kind of looks like marijuana, doesn't it? But it ain't marijuana. This is Yerba Mate, and take note of what I'm carrying this in, because we're going to talk about these packagings here today. This is something that I've kind of newly discovered. I was looking for a way to stop buying throwaway plastic Ziploc bags, and I come across these silicone. Boy, I tell you, I love silicone. And the more I get to know silicone, the more I like it, the more really interesting things that they're doing with silicone these days. But I've got it in a like Ziploc silicone bag here. This is reusable, so I don't have to throw this away. And I'm going to show you some other silicone bags like this. I got this from my grocery store, from the local Piggly Wiggly or Kroger's or something. Wasn't very expensive. I mean, it's more expensive than like a typical plastic Ziploc bag, but if you think about the fact that you don't throw this away when you're done with it, you just keep using it, rinse it right out in the sink, and just keep using it. It's worth, I think, the extra cost. And the Ziploc part of the top of the bag actually works a lot easier than a typical Ziploc bag does. So let me show you how we make this Yerba Mate. You guys might want to buy this and start trying it yourself. You don't drink it like a typical tea. What you do is you buy something also off Amazon, which is called a bombilla. And I'll show you what la bombilla looks like. It's like a straw spoon combo. Yeah, it's kind of what it looks like. It kind of looks like a little spoon. You don't use it as a spoon, but that's what it looks like. It works as a straw. And here you go. I've got one right here. That is called la bombilla. And if you'll notice at the end of it there, it's got those little holes. And what happens is that you take your cup and you take la bombilla and you put that in there, and then you put all the herb on top of that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pour hot water over top of the herb, and that will filter down through the herb. And then when you suck through the bombilla, or the straw here, metal straw, you're getting all that flavor and all that caffeine and stuff. It's really a delightful thing. And some folks, well, let me go ahead and start doing this. Some folks who drink Yerba Mate will add sweetener to the top, and then when they pour the hot water over top of that, the sweetener kind of sifts down through the herb, and then they can taste the sweetener when they're drinking it. I don't do that. I'm an all-natural man. I like my coffee black like I like my women. And that's the way I like, whiskey, for example. I don't like these flavored whiskeys everybody's drinking now. Even around here, the guys are adding like apple juice and stuff to their moonshine. Peaches. They're infusing it with like peaches. And I don't like that. If I'm going to drink moonshine, I just want the moonshine. If I'm going to drink bourbon whiskey, I just want to taste the bourbon. And so that's the way I am. I like things to be all natural. All right, so we've got the Yerba Mate. I put in quite a bit. This is a pretty big cup. I wouldn't typically use a cup like this. Actually, I'll show you what they usually use. They use a gourd. They use a dried out gourd, and I've got one. Let's do it the right way, all right? All right. I should have thought of this before. There's the gourd. It's just a dried out gourd, and we'll put our Yerba Mate inside that. Oh boy, I always got to do things the hard way, don't I? All right, I'm hoping that everybody can see this on the camera. Putting my Yerba Mate in the gourd. They say using these gourds are nice because you keep reusing the gourd and it kind of absorbs some of the flavors and stuff, so that the longer you've got a gourd that you're using, the more Yerba Mate you've drank in it, the more flavorful the experience will be. I reckon it's like an old pipe or something that kind of absorbs all the flavors and smells and stuff of the tobacco. I guess that's kind of the way it goes with the Yerba Mate. And I realize I'm spilling this all over the place. It's just because I don't care. Because I want to get on with talking about other things. I don't want this to take forever. With this extra here, we'll just scoop that into my cup. Yeah, I really did not have my intention to have this great big, large, comprehensive discussion about Yerba Mate. It's just working out that way. All right, so I've got some hot water here. I boiled it before we started recording, and I put it in this thermos, and we take the thermos, we just kind of pour some of that in there. Boy, I hope that's showing up. It's amazing how much that gourd will take. But you got to fill that up, and then the hot water will sink down into that gourd. Let's see, it's my gourd. Okay. While that's doing that, let's continue talking. Because if I drank that right now, it'd burn my lips off. So let's keep talking. You'll notice what I'm carrying right now into the woods for my eating utensils is I'm carrying my handy dandy Human Gear titanium spoon and fork combo, the one that I've shown you all in the past. My favorite. I think these sell for $13-14, something like that on Amazon. But man, it's so simple. Beautiful, perfect design in my opinion. And then titanium chopsticks. If I'm eating ramen noodles or something like that, I really like to have my chopsticks for that eating experience. And so if you can get yourself some titanium chopsticks, that's always nice. And then I'm going to start carrying una bombilla. The bombilla here, the bombilla straw for my Yerba Mate, because I plan to take Yerba Mate out into the woods with me. Let's go back to this container here. So this silicone containers, Ziploc bag-like things, are something I've become real fond of. I think that's what I'm going to start using instead of buying disposable Ziploc bags and then always buying them and throwing them away. These silicone Ziplocs are awfully nice. And so I went to the grocery store. I found several different sizes of these really nice, sturdy silicone Ziploc bags. I wanted to show you what else you could do with them. I wanted to show you some of the other sizes and what else you can do with them. What you see me carrying my Yerba Mate in is would be like a snack pack portion of a silicone bag. And then this silicone bag here, of course, would be like the sandwich baggie version of a silicone baggie of this nature. And so there's, a lot of things I could carry in those snacks, stuff like that. But when I was at the grocery store, I also found a large silicone bag, this size here. Now, what's interesting about that is that it's just slightly bigger than an 8.5 by 11 piece of printer paper or copy paper. So I said, that would be perfect to carry my maps in, because when I go out into the backcountry, I always take printed maps with me. And usually what I'd do is I'd fold them up and put them in a disposable sandwich baggie. And I said, well, if I get a couple of these, I won't have to do that no more. So here's what I've done. You can see it on the camera there. I've taken one of those silicone food bags, food grade bags. I've printed off a random map. I didn't even print this off recently. I think I had this in my library of different backpacking trips and excursions and stuff that I've either done in the past or wanted to do. So I just took one of those maps and I stuck it in here, and you can see that works really well. That's completely waterproofed because it's zipped closed, and that works really well. And I think the original intention for this is for the kitchen, putting food in there and those sorts of things, lettuce maybe, those sorts of things. But I'm constantly, when I go, it doesn't matter what store I'm in, I'm always looking at things and saying, well, I know that that's the marketed purpose for it, but might I be able to use that for a different purpose? And sure enough, I think these are wonderful. So, if you're at your Piggly Wiggly or your Kroger's or wherever you do your grocery shopping, your Walmart, see if you can't find some of these silicone food bags. And if you find one that's about 9 by 11.5, well, then you can print off your maps and protect those. They'll fold real nice. You see, I can carry that in my pocket or in the cargo pocket of my cargo pants. Pull that out in the pouring rain and check with the map if I have to, even in the pouring rain. And I don't have to worry about my map getting soiled or ruined or anything like that. So, while we're on the topic of this silicone stuff, there's another silicone bag that I wanted to show you. I got this off the internet. I got this off Amazon, and I paid a little bit more for it. And I think it's a cup size. It's made quite a bit more hearty than these bags here that I just got done showing you. But I wanted to show you what I've learned I can do with it. Let me do that. That Yerba Mate is really good. It's really chock full of flavor. You tea drinkers, you might like it. I mean, it's an acquired taste. It's pretty intense. But if you're a coffee drinker and like your coffee really stout, you might like this Yerba Mate, even though at first you're like, man, that tastes like it tastes like I'm drinking hot water that I poured through fresh mowed grass. But once you get used to it, once you acquire the taste, it's a nice experience. You just keep pouring your hot water over top of that as you go, because the herb absorbs a lot of that water. And so it takes a while for all the herb inside of there to really get saturated and to hold water so that you can drink it. Okay, so these are the other pouches that I wanted to show you. As you can see, those are quite a bit thicker than those sandwich bags I was just showing you. And even the Ziploc at the top, that is hearty. I mean, that is nice and thick and a hearty silicone. So, you know, that thing's going to last a long time. Does well. I mean, these things can take a brutal amount of heat, something like 400 degrees worth of heat. They don't get brittle or anything in the cold. They take a beating. Let me show you the size difference here. So this is from Stasher, Stasher. Stasher brand makes these on Amazon. And then these are the cheaper ones that I got from the grocery store. There's the snack pack. There's the sandwich bag. And then here's this Stasher silicone pouch that I'm showing off now. Now, I'll show you why this one in particular is so nice. You know these freeze-dried meals? Freeze-dried backpacking meals or survival meals everybody's buying nowadays. One of these survival meals, which is like a 2-person portion, will fit into one of these little tiny, like indestructible silicone Ziplocs. How do I know that? I know that because I've already tried it. There you go. There's beef stew. There's beef stew, like from one of these packages in one of those Ziplocs. Check that out. I was always transferring these things out of these big, like aluminum infused packagings anyway, into Ziploc bags. But now, instead of using disposable Ziploc bags, I'm just going to transfer them into these Stashers. These were not cheap. These cost me like $11 each, and I bought 3 of them. Again, with the idea that if I'm just going to keep using these for years, that means I won't have to be out there buying the disposable Ziplocs all the time, and so $11 per. Actually, if you think about it in the long run, is worth it. Let's go ahead and transfer this packet here of beef stroganoff by Mountain House Adventure Meals into one of these little Stasher silicone pouches so that you can see what I'm talking about. And you want to make sure that when you transfer this, that you get these little packets, these little moisture absorbing packet. You want to make sure you get that in there too. So let's just go ahead and throw that in there. There you go. That is that whole packet there in that little tiny silicone pouch. But you know, when you cook that, you add all the hot water and everything, and that all absorbs the hot water, it'll expand and make a 2-person meal. So there you go. Shake that a little bit, let it settle so that we can Ziploc it shut. There you go. That's ready to go. That's perfectly secure. Perfectly secure, ready to go out into the woods with me. Now, I don't eat straight in my packaging. I take cooking equipment. So what I would do is when I get to camp, I would take my cook pot. I would take a kettle and I would boil water in my kettle. And then I would take this and dump the contents into a cup or my cooking mug. Then I would pour the hot water on top of the contents here that I had put in my cook mug. So I'd open this up, pour this into my cook mug. Then I would take my boiling water, pour boiling water into my cook mug, which got the food. And then I would just lid that. I would put a lid on top of it, and then I would just sit for 8 minutes until it's ready. And that's how I would do that. I think what I'll do with these is once they're empty, I'll just use them for trash. I'm not saying that I'll throw these away. I'm saying like little, chewing gum wrappers and stuff like that. I'll just store in these until I get home and carry stuff out of the woods that way once they're empty. But man, you can't beat that with a stick right there. Look at that. There's 2 Mountain House meals. That saves me all kinds of space in my pack. Really secure, airtight. Those aren't going to go bad. Those are going to last forever and ever, especially with those moisture-absorbing packets in there. And golly, it just simplifies everything. So, Stasher makes these, and I think this is the 1 cup portion that I bought. They cost me about $11 each. Not cheap, but man, neither is paying for disposable Ziploc bags for 5 years running. So if these last me 5 years, think about all the money I'm saving on having to buy disposable Ziploc bags that pollute the environment and all that. All right, moving on. I've really become a fan of these tins. These tins that are in the shape of pucks, and they come in all these different sizes. These that I'm holding in my hands right here, I think that's 4 ounces. Those are not screw lids. Those just fit tight on there. But what I'm using, these particular ones are not screw lids. The others that I have here are. So here's a 6 ounce, and that is actually a screw lid. Super light. These tins are super light and reusable, secure, watertight. I've even got a smaller size here. This is also a screw top. So let me show you the 3 sizes that I personally have. Oh, daggum. All right. So I've got the 3 sizes right here. That's the 3 sizes. You can see them there in both cameras, I hope. This one is screw top. The 8 ounce is screw top. The smaller one is screw top. The middle one is not. I prefer the screw top, to be honest with you. But the one that is not screw top seems to hold things just as securely. But like I say, these things are not heavy at all, and so they're great for carrying things off. Well, I'll show you what I'm carrying in mine. They're not expensive. Like you can go on Amazon and you can buy a whole box of these things for something like $10. So they're not expensive at all. Let me show you some of the things I'm carrying in them. Candies. Let me show you. This is in one of the small containers here. These are just hard candies. I got sassafras, root beer, licorice, hard candies. Something really nice to have out in the woods when you're hiking along, and especially in the summertime when your mouth is just as dry as cotton. Jelly beans. I really like my Jelly Belly jelly beans. It just gives me a huge infusion of flavor out there in the woods when everything is, when flavor is. I've mentioned to you in the past. I really, for some reason, when I'm out in the backcountry, the more flavorful a thing is, that's the way I want it out in the woods. But in the civilized world, it ain't always something that I'm too concerned about. But when I get out in the woods, I really like flavors to pop. So these Jelly Belly jelly beans, man, it's nice. It's nice to sit around camp at the end of the day and pop a few of those. Another thing I carry in this small container is my bouillon cubes. So, you can do so many things with bouillon cubes. With bouillon cubes and a tater and an onion, you can make a really awesome stew. Throw a couple pieces of beef jerky in there and let that stew over the fire. You'll thank me. Try it out. So, a little tin there is just awesome for carrying my bouillon cubes. Now here's the 4 ounce tin. I'm carrying cocoa in this. I've also told you in the past that, here at home when I'm having my coffee, I just drink it black. In fact, I was just talking about that earlier, wasn't I? about how I like things all natural. But again, for some reason, when I get into the backcountry, I really like for flavors to pop, and I get in the mood for tastes and stuff that I'm typically not in the mood for. And one of those things is cocoa or hot chocolate. I like to take a couple tablespoons of hot chocolate and dump that in my black coffee in the morning and just kind of make a cafe mocha or a mocha cafe. Well, I don't know what they call it. There we go. So there's my cocoa or hot chocolate in that 4-ounce tin. I just keep it in there. I'll scoop some out of that, put that in my coffee in the morning. But isn't that a nice way to carry that? I'm going to show you how to carry these all together and why it's such a beautiful arrangement. And finally, I've got my 6-ounce tin. And you see what I got written on there? I got Kentucky Kernel Flour written on there. You guys need to try Kentucky Kernel Flour. I use it for my fish. I use it for my chicken. I use it when I make stews and I want to thicken up the stew. I'll dump Kentucky Kernel Flour in there. But I think one of the best meals I've ever had was I was out bass fishing one morning, freshwater bass fishing with a friend of mine. This is back years ago. I was in my late teens or early 20s, and real early in the morning, we caught a couple big bass, and we took those back, and this friend of mine showed me how to fillet fish. That was the morning that I learned how to fillet fish, and that's the way I've been cleaning my fish ever since, filleting them. And he took the fillets of meat of those fish we had just caught that morning, and he fried them up in this Kentucky Kernel Flour. And I'll tell you what, I think it was the best breakfast I've ever had in my life. So I'm addicted to this Kentucky Kernel Flour, but I use it for everything. You know, a lot of people don't carry flour, things like that, out into the backcountry with them. But it's so versatile if you know how to use it. You've seen me use this around the campfire when I'm, again, making stews, and to add some flour and add body to the flour and thicken that up. Adds calories, adds flavor. It's so good. But this Kentucky Kernel Flour, I'll show a picture too up here what the box looks like when you go to the Piggly Wiggly or grocery store, wherever you go to the grocery store. It can be hard to find if they even carry it. So you kind of have to go looking for it, and it's not usually in like the flour section. It's not usually where you'd find flour, sugar, and those sorts of things. Usually you find it, I think, in the spice section of the grocery store, and it just comes in a little tiny box. But you get in the habit of carrying some of that Kentucky Kernel Flour, I'll tell you what, you probably will thank me for it. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be carrying in my tins. I've got a trip in the backcountry coming up. You can see I'm excited about trying out some of these new methods of carrying my food. These silicone bags, these different sized tins, I think are going to come in real handy. Now, as long as we're still talking about containers, let me show you these 1-ounce containers that I use for spices. Here you go. These are these little 1-ounce container, plastic containers with silver lids. And you buy these things in bulk. They don't cost anything. I mean, you get they sent me an entire box of, I think, 30 tins, 30 of those 4-ounce tins. 30. I don't even know what I'm going to do with all those. But I stick them away in storage, and there I've always got them. I want to use one for carrying something out into the woods, beans or rice, you know. I'll tell you, rice, one of these 6-ounce containers would be excellent for rice. The one I'm carrying my Kentucky flour in, Kentucky Kernel Flour, that would be just enough rice to pack out into the woods to last you. Man, you could stretch that out a whole week, especially if you're combining other things with it. Here's a big container of these, or a big pile of these 1-ounce little bottles that I got off Amazon. They're plastic. They've got like an aluminum silver lid to them. And I've found that these are perfect for spices. If you want to make yourself a nice little spice kit, you can't beat these things. They carry just the right portion. And you can get them in 2-ounce, 3-ounce. Of course, that changes the size and the shape and everything. but I'm really fond of these 1 ounce portion sizes of these bottles. And I've got a spice kit right here that I think I've showed off before. I showed you how to carry those, right? You just wrap them in your kerchief, and that makes for a wonderful spice carrier. These kerchiefs are just fantastic for everything. They really are. A kerchief is a really necessary piece of gear out in the woods. They come in so handy. I keep them everywhere. But here you go. These are the same containers I was just showing off. A little older. I had just ordered some more of those. But salt, that's an excellent portion of salt for actual cooking out in the woods, rather than, just seasoning a bowl of your food. Actually, if you're going to be out there actually cooking, you can't beat these portion sizes. So I'm carrying salt in this one, Tabasco in this one. That's another wonderful thing about these. They don't just carry powders. You can carry liquids in these securely, and they won't leak. And then when it comes time to use them, cap comes right off. It goes right back on. This Tabasco is about 2 years old. I like to carry Tabasco. I'm not sure what this is. This might be pepper. What is that? What you want to do, you don't want to just write with a Sharpie on these things, like this is cumin, for example. You don't want to just write cumin on the container with a Sharpie and just leave it like that. If you do that, you want to write like pepper or cumin, and then take a piece of Scotch tape and then put the Scotch tape over top of that where you've written that, like I've done on these tins, and that'll keep that from rubbing off. And I didn't do that on these, so I think this is pepper here. I think that's cumin. Really nice. I think just a great portion size. Here, I was walking through the Piggly Wiggly, and I come across, they were selling cream of tartar in these little containers. And I said, well, I don't want the cream of tartar. Well, I do want that container. So I bought this just for the container. And what I'm carrying in there is baking soda. And baking soda can be used for so many things. It can freshen your boots. You can pour some of that in your boots to freshen your boots. You can rub that on your body to take away odors. You can brush your teeth with this baking soda. A tablespoon or a teaspoon of baking soda mixed with water will calm an acidic stomach, or what they call that, reflux, or indigestion or acid reflux. Controls that really nicely. So I always try to carry a little bit of baking soda with me wherever I go. And at this portion right here, this cream of tartar little container that originally had cream of tartar in it. I just emptied it out, cleaned that out, and put my baking soda in there. So there you go. Some ideas for you, and we're not done yet. There's a couple other things I want to show you. I wanted a ladle. You guys know what a ladle is? Well, some of you might call it a ladle, but I call it a ladle. I got this idea in my head that I absolutely needed a ladle in my gear, because I'm constantly making these stews and stuff, and I've had the idea that I want to make larger portions of stew and soups when I get out into the backcountry, particularly in colder weather. It's just such a nice thing to have around the fire, man. Have a pot of stew over the fire and keep coming back to it as the night goes on. It just keeps you warm, warms you from the inside out. And I had recently gotten this new kettle, which I intend to use not only as a kettle but also as a cook pot to cook stews and leave hanging over the fire all night. Some of you have seen this. This is a titanium kettle. By the way, Sasson. I may stop carrying my Sasson in these little bottles here, and I may start carrying my Sasson in a tin, and then just use it like, pinch the amount out that I want, put it in my food, and then recap that. I think I might do that. It also allowed me to carry a slightly larger portion of sazon, but that's by La Preferida. So this is a multi-purpose spice. When you go into the Piggly Wiggly or the grocery store, you'll see several different spices that just call themselves sazon. The one I recommend is by Preferida. Let me say it the gringo way, so that you folks who don't speak Spanish will know what you're looking for when you go in there. You want to look for sazon by La Preferida. Looks like it says Preferida. It's actually pronounced La Preferida. Delicious stuff. It's far superior to many of these multi-spices that other bushcraft guys will preach about. Well, I'll tell you why. Because the ones that they use typically primarily designed for seafood. Well, how many bushcrafters do you know are out there eating sword shark? How many people do you know? How many bushcrafters do you know are out there eating crab legs? It's kind of ridiculous. So I like a multi-spice that is more designed for the actual types of foods that you're probably going to be eating out in the woods, where there's not an ocean for 1,000 miles around. Here is my new Boundless Voyage kettle. What I like about it, it has no lip obstruction on the inside, so you can use this as a cook pot as easily as you use it as a kettle. Here's the lid for it. I think I see this going for $60 right now on Amazon. I'm not sure I paid that. I think I got it before it kind of demand started picking up. But man, it's so well built. These butterfly handles on it are robust and tough. Look how thick those are. That bell handle, that ain't no clothes hanger. That thing is solid titanium. It's well made. The whole thing is just really well made. But thinking about using this as a cook pot, one thing I started thinking is, well, I need something that can reach down in there and pull stew out. So what I need is a nice ladle. I need to add a ladle or ladle to my list of gear items that I carry on a regular basis. And so that's what I did. I jumped on Amazon and I thought, which of these ladles is the ladle that's got my name written on it? Which one is going to define Rut, the Practical Woodsman? And so I settled on this one right here, and I'm so glad I did. It's like a work of art, this thing. It's beautiful. I almost feel bad taking it into the woods with me. It's just a gorgeous work of art, this thing. Yeah, it's just a pleasure to hold in your hand and look at. I can't wait to get this into the woods. But more importantly, it's a Goldilocks ladle. What do I mean by that? Well, it ain't too big and it ain't too small. It's just right. Look at the size of that thing. Where's my... give you something to compare this to. Well, here's the kettle right there. And there's my ladle. Do you see why that's such a beauty? I'm not carrying any unnecessary wood or length to this thing that I don't need. Man, I just love the bowl on that thing. It's just the right size. It's not, again, it's Goldilocks. Ain't too big, ain't too small. It's just right. And so you can see if I'm cooking a stew or something over the fire with this ladle is, it's just gorgeous. Works in that so well. I can get down in there, scoop out those taters and those onions and those green beans and that. Oh man, I can taste it already. Scoop that out real nice, pass it around, share portions with other people who are in my group. So I'll include links to all these things. If you think you need a ladle or a ladle in your list of gear items, Well, I highly recommend this one. Man, it is fine. It's really well made. It is solid. It's not too heavy. It's not too long. I think most of them that you find are like 12 inches long. Well, that's kind of overkill for me. On foot, out in the woods, 30 miles back. I don't need to be carrying anything I don't need to be carrying. At the same time, there are some pleasure things like this Ladle. I mean, is it a necessity? No, it ain't a necessity. But it sure does make the experience quite nice. I can't wait to get out around the fire and get a stew going and share that experience with all of you. It's interesting. The primary reason, I was talking to somebody here this past weekend when I was doing a live stream on the Practical Woodsman online community, which is at Locals, by the way, thepracticalwoodsman.locals, LOCALS.com. You can join us that way, or you can download the locals.com app from the App Store and then just search for The Practical Woodsman within. I try to do live streams on Saturdays when possible. I've had a lot going on in my life here lately, and it's been kind of hit and miss, but on Saturdays when I can, I like to do the live stream there exclusively on the group. And I think it was there on the group that somebody said, if I go out into the woods, I ain't going out there and recording myself or recording things. I'm out there to just enjoy the experience of being out in the backcountry. Well, there's something to be said for that. There's something to be said for that. And it is kind of silly. It does reach a level of silliness sometimes. Just how people can't go anywhere or do anything without recording things. But actually, the creation of this channel, The Practical Woodsman, really come about by me recording these experiences out in the woods for myself, for my own pleasure, as a way to document the experience for myself, to be able to relive these adventures and experiences time and time again rather than just one time. Or, years pass and your memory ain't so sharp as it used to be. You can't remember exactly where you had this experience or what woods you were in, or and you kind of begin to confuse one experience with other experiences and things like that. So I had started recording and trying to document my experiences out in the woods for my own pleasure, as a way to document it and be able to relive these things that I just love doing and experiencing and being out in the middle of. And so that Practical Woodsman was kind of born from that. I said, I'm already recording these things. Why don't I just share them with other people? So it's really for me primarily that I do these things, and then secondarily for you. That doesn't mean I don't care. Doesn't mean I'm not interested in you. Doesn't mean that I don't hope people will enjoy these videos. It just means that primarily it's out of my own passion and love for these things that I'm doing them at all, that I'm recording them for posterity, right? To be able to go back and look at them and see what I was interested in and when and what I was doing, like these containers right now. Why on earth this week am I just suddenly so interested in these tin containers and these silicone pouches and stuff? I don't know. I just love trying out different things, learning new things, seeing better ways of doing old things. And I really, really enjoy it. All right, last thing we're going to talk about for this exclusive video for the Practical Woodsman are Walkie Talkies. You guys ever carry Walkie Talkies out into the woods on excursions or backpacking trips or anything like that? I don't. I've never done it. I've always thought maybe it would be a good idea, but when it comes to packing your pack and you're trying to cut weight and save space and everything in your pack, really, especially if you're going on a really long journey, things that aren't absolutely necessary are the first things to get left out, aren't they? When you sling that pack over your pack and you imagine hiking up a 3,000-foot mountain, a walkie-talkie and things like that just don't seem so necessary, do they? Well, I've been fiddling around, playing around with walkie-talkies here lately, testing out battery life, testing out range, and those sorts of things. I've got here some Walmart walkie-talkies. I bought these 6 years ago, something like that, and they're not too bad. I don't remember what I paid for these. It wouldn't have been like over $20 or something like that. And you know, I've tested these. I had my daughter help me out with this. I said, you stand by the window. Now, you don't have to stand outside or anything. We're going to try to test just like real world conditions here. And just stand inside the house by the window, and let's see what the range of these things are. I got in my truck in the old Bacon, and I started driving. And I kept checking in with her. Hey, how's it? Can you still hear me? And I was checking the clarity and the range and the battery life and all that. And these Walmart walkie-talkies are not too shabby. They've got a pretty good range. What kind of range am I talking about? Well, they probably started really losing their clarity and stuff. At about a quarter mile, they started getting pretty staticky and stuff. But that ain't too bad. You know, if you think about being in a group, hiking along, you know how it happens. If you're with people, there are these portions where you're hiking together, caught up in conversation and everything, but then people get into their own thoughts and kind of get into their own pace, and they separate. At least that's what happens in my experience. Me and my buddies, we'll end up far apart. Like, I won't even see them. Of course, I'm stopping, I'm taking lots of video, lots of pictures and stuff like that, and they want to keep going, especially if they're going up a mountain or something like that, you know, and they're in a zone. They don't really want to be slowing down or stopping, stopping, whereas I am. I like to start, stop, take time to appreciate something that I'm looking at or take pictures of it or video. So distance happens between folks in the same group. And a quarter mile is a pretty good distance. I would say, because my daughter, when we were testing these out, was inside the house. It was surrounded by walls. I was in a car, surrounded by the walls of the car, and I was in motion. If you're on foot, I'd say you get a much larger distance, and it's a nice way. Like, say the person that's at the head of the group, hiking along, comes up to a fork or something in a trail, or a blowdown area or anything like that, he could radio back, hey, be careful up here, you know, you could lose the trail easy, I'm going to the right. Or big blowdown area, can't see the trail forever, so I'm just going to keep hiking straight forward. I'm going to be heading for, I don't know, that bald spot up there on the hill. Or, you know, it's a nice way for everybody in the group to stay in touch with each other. So these Walmart walkie-talkies are not bad for that. They're a little bit heavy. Battery life is not the best. You might get a day's worth of light use out of them. And then I've got these Baofeng radios. They're pretty much the same design as those Walmart radios. I got a really incredible distance on these, running the same test. My daughter standing at the door, me driving. I think I got about a half mile in town, again, under those same conditions, got about a half mile range on these. My complaint with these Baofengs, not all Baofengs, but these particular Baofengs, battery life. And it's not so much the battery life as the battery indicator. It's not trustworthy. Like, I'll charge these things full charge and then turn them on, and it shows that the battery's half spent. Well, I just gave them a brand new full charge. So I don't like the uncertainty or the unreliability of the battery indicators. Battery life is about the same as the Walmart walkie-talkies. All right, so there's these. You'll see these on, which is a shame because they're such beautiful little walkie-talkies. And all of these, by the way, are rechargeable out in the field. These are all USB-C rechargeable. These Walmarts, they're kind of older, so they're not USB-C, but they are USB rechargeable right there. You can see the port where you charge that. So, you're carrying a battery pack or power bank with you anyway out into the woods. You don't have to worry about taking batteries along with you. You just, at night when you get into camp, you plug these into your power bank and let them recharge. Got a solar panel with you, even better. All right, so now these are these other set of bow fangs. These are really small. Look at the size difference between these bow fangs and this bow fang. It's quite different. Look at the width of these. So these bow fangs I just got done showing you are they're kind of like a brick. These ones are really small comparably, but really well made. And I think these are older walkie-talkies too, because these are not the USB-C walkie-talkies. They've got the other USB, the mini USB charger to them, and they're waterproof. Everything's closed off, like all the open ports and everything have covers to them, like watertight covers. Again, I'll put the link to these in the description of the video. They don't have the greatest range, but they're not weak either. These got about a quarter-mile range on them. Battery life is superb. These things will sit on standby. I don't have to worry at all about turning it on, a week later and them being completely dead. I don't have to worry about that. In use, the battery life is exceptional. And again, they're rechargeable. I've got this one turned on right now, and my daughter's on the other end. Let's see if we can get her. Breaker 19, this is Lost Sheep to Shepherd. Come in, Shepherd. Can you hear me? Breaker 19, this is Lost Sheep to Shepherd. Come in, Shepherd. Can you hear me? Over and out. What you doing in there?
Reading.
You reading anything interesting?
I guess so.
Are you reading anything that would get you into trouble? Like if I went in there, I'd say, oh my gosh, you can't read that.
I don't think so.
She had to think about it, didn't she? All right, honey. Well, thank you. I was just doing a little test on these walkie-talkies here, and I appreciate you helping me out.
Okay.
This is Shepherd, over and out.
This is, Squishmallow?
You're Lost Sheep. I'm Shepherd.
What?
You're Lost Sheep. I'm Shepherd.
Okay.
Okay, over and out.
Over and out.
So you see, those aren't too bad. She's just off yonder, but they've got pretty good clarity. They're reliable. I can't say enough good things about these little, easy to use walkie-talkies. And look at that. Clip that there, hiking along, man, you don't even know that's there until you need it. You get on there, tell the Duke boys that old Boss Hog and Roscoe are out looking for them, and save those good old boys a lot of trouble. The last walkie-talkies I want to show you, and then I've got to get off here and feed my pooches here, are these arc shell walkie-talkies. I'll tell you specifically why I got these walkie-talkies here.
Power on. 5.
Because they got rave reviews, and actually in some of the reviews for these walkie-talkies, the reviewer said, I don't know if these are actually made to the specifications that they're supposed to adhere to. In other words, I think what some of the reviewers were saying, that they put some extra amps into these walkie-talkies so they get longer range. You might get 5 miles on these little walkie-talkies, and I don't think you're supposed to exceed 2 amps on just like a commercial family walkie-talkie type unit, because then you start getting into trouble with the FCC and stuff like that, and ham radio operators. But anyway, I said, well, that's excellent for what I want. I'm not out to break any laws or anything, but the greater distance I can get with these things, that's the Walkie Talkies I want to take out into the backcountry with me. So these do get excellent range. Battery life is excellent. Clarity is excellent. They're not too big or bulky. They're just right. They've got really nice antenna size there on them. And so I will also include links to these wonderful, completely legal walkie-talkies being sold on Amazon, and you might want to pick up a couple for yourself. So we've talked about a lot of different things, haven't we, folks? I hope you enjoy. You guys have a wonderful week, and thanks for joining me here on The Practical Woodsman. I'm Rut. That's right. It's my genius, which is giving birth to all this. You guys take care. I'll see you next time.